Some of the other things that we're going to work with today will be this marquee selection tool. Probably, since you haven't been doing anything with this, you probably have the rectangular marquee selection tool. This is a really important tool, and we're going to be getting into it right off the bat. We'll talk more about it as we use it. The second one that we're going to be working with would be the paintbrush. And this is a really powerful tool, and pretty much all of the tools are paintbrushes, so you really want to learn how to use your paintbrush. Just be really careful that I've had students really struggle with this, that these are very similar icons. That this is a paintbrush, and this is a history paintbrush. Let me zoom out so you can see. It gives you these dialog boxes that show up. So that's a history tool brush. That's a history brush tool. Very different tool than the brush tool. Okay, so we are using the brush tool to begin with. Okay. We'll probably also, you're not seeing this, probably, I think it probably by default is the sharpen tool, or possibly the smudge. I think it was the sharpen though. But it might be your smudge tool. So just notice that these tools have actually more than one tool inside of there. And we'll probably be using the blur tool a little bit today. I'll zoom back out a little bit, come up to the top. And the other thing that we're going to be working with is going to be transform tools. And I don't actually have anything out here, so I can't use the transform tool quite yet, but we are going to be using the transform tools to help us organize things. And these are really important tools. You'll notice them right off the bat as you start looking at some of the videos I'm having you guys watch, that a lot of the painters are using these tools, but so will a photographer, so will really basically anyone using Photoshop. These tools are going to be useful in pretty much any project that you work with. So while we are sort of focused on painting to begin with, there is a method and a madness, or madness. There's a method to this, and so students tend to like not want to necessarily paint off the bat. They're like, I'm not a painter, but what you do need to understand is that most of these tools here that are available are a form of brush. They're going to take the same settings that a brush will use, and you need to understand how to utilize the sizing of a brush and the softness of a brush, the hardness of a brush, some of the more complex settings that take advantage of tablets or shape dynamics and things like this. That brushes can be quite complex actually, and so the more control you have over them, the more tools that you can take advantage of. So paintbrush is a good one to start with because it's just really just color, and so it sort of simplifies the process a little bit and gets you used to it, and then you can start moving into other tools. And then lastly, we're going to be talking about color, and these are the color chips, and you can see we have white, we have black. I think I probably just opened up a dialog box by clicking that. Let me cancel that. And what I want you guys to recognize is that there's this little triangular button right here, and I can switch between these two. Okay. This little button right here just sets your defaults back to black and white, these little chips. So they call this a foreground and a background color. So you can shift these two in there. You always have two available to you, always, a foreground and a background chip. And just so you can see, this is where you're actually choosing what color is represented in your brush at any given time. And of course, you'll also notice that there's this color picker up to the top, and we're not going to get into color quite yet. I think it's a little bit easier to stick with value to begin with, so we're just going to be working with black and white. But obviously you can pick colors, and there's all kinds of colors, and getting used to using this takes a little bit of time. It's not that difficult, but people tend to not know which part to click in right off the bat. But as you can see, I can change that color, and if I zoom out, you'll notice that now that color chip is that whatever aqua color or whatever. And if I didn't want that and I want to get back to that black and white sort of default, I can click on this again, and you can see that it just goes back into black and white. So this arrow we're going to actually use today. And if you ever find yourself in colors that aren't really set properly, you can always just click on that and go back to that black and white. just maybe to begin with though, we'll want to watch out for a straight black and white, especially digitally speaking. Those two colors are really hard on screens and hard on eyes. So even though we're going to do a black and white image, we're not going to do a fully white or a fully black. We're going to pick dark and light rather than black and white. So these will change in a moment. So I will pick something on these. So just be aware of that. I think that's the main thing to, in terms of the tools that we're going to use. Might introduce a little bit more as we go, but let's get back into the layers again. So